Fresh off talks with Iran, U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner today visiting the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier. That carrier is part of a recent buildup of U.S. military assets in the Middle East. President Trump has described the indirect talks on Friday with Iran as very good. Both sides have confirmed further talks will be taking place, though Iran says no date has been set yet. Let's bring in CNN senior military analyst, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander Admiral James Stavridis. He's also a partner of the Carlyle Group, an international investment firm. Admiral Stavridis, thanks for being here with us. As these talks were happening, there's also this kind of looming threat of a potential U.S. strike. How do you read this visit, then, to the USS Abraham Lincoln today from Witkoff and Kushner, knowing all of that context?
I'd quote Teddy Roosevelt and say, speak softly and carry a big stick. And to jump out to the Abraham Lincoln, by the way, named after our most iconic president in many ways, and then have all the visuals you were just showing in every television around the world is showing, it is a very direct signal to the Iranians to come to the table. Let's negotiate. We don't want to strike, but we have all the capability in the world. And I think in that sense, it's a smart negotiating tool. Let's see where it goes next week, Jessica.
And I'm thinking, as you're saying that, they're trying to get this done with Iran, which has proved quite difficult for administrations past, and these are really tricky negotiations. And they're showing these visuals, and they have this buildup there in the Middle East. Does it kind of get to a point where you have to, like, oh, if it doesn't work, if they cannot get to an agreement, where you're forced into some sort of military strike, or you're seen as bluffing?
You have to worry about a credibility gap that can open up if you say to, for example, the people of Iran, the protesters, I've got your back, help is on the way. Now you're building up, you're sending your son-in-law, your chief negotiator, to a powerful nuclear aircraft carrier. Certainly feels like a last exit before the tunnel signal to the Iranians. Negotiate now. And I would merely point out, if I were an Iranian leader, I would think this all reminds me of the 12-day war in which Donald Trump did strike, went after the Iranian nuclear program. So I think there's still credibility there. But your point, Jessica, is right. If all of a sudden we just walk back away from it, that's going to be interpreted as a falling away by the administration. I don't think that's where they want to be. And so, final thought, they're going to continue to work up that ladder of escalation from diplomatic to cyber to information warfare. And then at some point, you're going to have to strike. You're going to have to go kinetic if you want to continue to move up that ladder.
Right. And so Iran, going back to the talks, though, because as you know, that's where we are right now. Iran is standing firm on enrichment, which it says will be peaceful. But officials said other matters like Iran's ballistic missile program and regional proxies were off the table. So if that's the case, what then is considered a success in these talks? As often is, these seem to be moving targets.
It is a moving target. I think first and foremost is to get the Iranians to forswear any kind of nuclear enrichment. And there are kind of clever ways that can be handled. You could move it out of Iran, put it under joint two-key management, maybe on an island in the Persian Gulf. I've heard that mentioned. There are ways to kind of finesse that issue. I think the administration is absolutely right to keep the pressure on not only the nuclear weapons capability question, but also the ballistic missiles and the proxies. It's really a trifecta. And if Iran only wants to talk about one leg of that triad, I don't think these talks are going to go very much longer.
And I do want to ask you, because you mentioned the 12-day war, you mentioned the U.S. strike on Iran last year. After those strikes, those were in June, the president claimed that the country's military program had been, he said, obliterated. It turned out that realistically it was more set back, might be a better way to say it. What would you say that we know about Iran's nuclear capability now and where things stand, where they're trying to go?
I think it's been significantly degraded. What I always try and do in a scenario like this is put myself in the shoes of the other. And so if I'm an Iranian leader right now, I do want to reconstruct that program, but I want to do it secretively and in smaller chunks around the country and distribute it more widely. The bottom line is you can't obliterate the program while there are still Iranian scientists who have the knowledge of how to reconstitute it. All you can ultimately do is control it. You can control it with negotiation, which is what Trump administration is trying to do right now. And if not, you're going to have to resort up that ladder of escalation to further strikes. Let's hope we don't get to that.
All right. Admiral James Trevedis, always great to have you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jess.
The major question this hour for federal investigators continues to be, who is behind the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie? We'll have the latest in that investigation. That's next here on the CNN Newsroom.